It's time for another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas, the podcast covering the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life in general here in the Ozarks. Whether you are considering a move to this area or trying to learn more about the place you call home, we've got something special for you. Here's our host, Randy Wilburn.
Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and I am here today in downtown Rogers. It's one of the few times that I have been able to get out of my garage, if you will, my pseudo sound room, to get in front of somebody and actually do a interview. And I'm excited today to do this socially distant interview with Mr. Brian Bonk. Brian is the president and CEO of Pel Freez. And for those of you that don't know about Pel Freez, that's why I'm doing this podcast today. It is an amazing company that's been around for over a century, and they've been right here in downtown Rogers, and they're like the best kept secret. And we're going to change that today on this episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. So without further ado, Brian, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for coming by.
Good.
This company is a fascinating history and story, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to share it.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you taking me on a quick tour today. As I look down and I'm looking through a window in one of your conference rooms here adjacent to your office. And, you know, I didn't realize how much space that you guys have here in downtown Rogers. It's almost like a whole city block, if you will, or maybe even two, with a processing plant. You've got storage, you've got a shipping building. I mean, you've got a little bit of everything. And
the labs.
And the labs, right.
A lot of labs.
Can't forget that. But I would love for you, as we do on every episode of the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast, is we always like to get into the individuals. So I'd love for you to tell us your curated superhero origin story about Brian and how you got here, right here where we are today. And then we'll get a little into Pel Freez and rabbits.
Sure. So I come from a life sciences background. I did my PhD in biological engineering at MIT in Boston. So I spent about 7 years doing that. I was always interested in doing something entrepreneurial. Did a couple different internships and a brief stint with a startup me and my friends were looking to launch. Toward the end of grad school, where we were dead set actually on doing a startup. We spent about a year. We had a technology we were looking to commercialize at the end of my PhD. We spent about a year talking to potential investors and customers and the market. And we kind of reached this point where, it was a good idea, but it wasn't so good that we wanted to drop everything and do it full time. So towards the end of grad school, I was looking for something to do, wanted to do something entrepreneurial, in the life sciences. That was my background. I kind of stumbled upon this article somebody sent me, and it was about some recent MBA student who, moved, I think he was from Harvard, and he moved to Atlanta and bought this HVAC company and was extremely successful at it. And it got me into this idea of, what's sometimes called entrepreneurship through acquisition. And it opened me up to this whole world where, this has become a fairly popular niche career path for MBA students. But the idea is that there's, thousands of baby boomer owned businesses where the owner is looking to retire, but the business, might be too small or too weird for them to sell it to a private equity firm or a larger corporation. And maybe their kids don't want to take it over. So there's kind of this unmet need for, business owners in this category to find a way to retire, and so this is where, a young whippersnapper like me comes in or some MBA student comes in where they'll, raise money from investors and, acquire some of these businesses. And, the idea is that they're, stable, enduringly profitable businesses that, a recent MBA can run fairly, without too much management experience. So I started, talking to all these people who were doing this, and the typical MBA student who does this, acquires a super boring is a relative term, but, to the average person, they just sound like very boring, stable businesses. Some MBA students I know who did this, one acquired a fire hose testing company in New Jersey. And you don't think about it, but all these fire departments, need their fire hoses tested for insurance liability. Another person I know acquired like a high-rise window washing business in Dallas, which you don't think about it, but it's like this super profitable business. And the owners wanted to retire, so they sold it to this entrepreneur. So as I started talking, and most people don't even realize this is a career path. When you think about buying a business, you think you need to be independently wealthy, but there's sort of a whole community of investors out here who support this kind of thing. And the more I just got really interested in this idea, and in particular because, there are thousands of small life science companies out there. They just sell some weird reagent, or it'll just be a very niche product like Pel Freez. And, the investment thesis was, the typical MBA student who's going out and acquiring, an HVAC business, doesn't have the domain expertise to run, a life science reagent company like Pel Freez. So nobody was doing this investment model in the life sciences. Mm-hmm. So I got super interested in this. I ended up meeting some investors. They actually teach a course about this at Harvard Business School. The professors of this class wrote a book about it, and they later became my investors. But, I just got super interested in this idea of like, there's so many small and like, everybody in Cambridge, where I was, like, they were all going into venture capital or doing like, hey, let's apply machine learning to X. Everyone was raising money for their startups, but like, I wanted to do something totally different. And, I felt like there's this opportunity out there, these small businesses that, you can kind of be a big fish in a small pond. And none of these smart people in Cambridge were doing this. So I'm like, we have to go find one of these businesses. So I took a class at Harvard that they teach a class about this model. And that's how I got to know the people who, they're professors at Harvard, but they're also quite successful.
What was the title of the class?
It was called Financial Management of Small Firms and then Entrepreneurship Through Acquisition. And, this is actually one of the most popular classes at Harvard Business School. And, at MIT, you can cross-register between the schools, but it was...
I like to keep all the smart kids together, right?
But being one of the most popular classes, it was full. And, well, I have to do this. I have to meet these investors. I'm like, we need to do this. So I sent them an email and I'm like, listen, nobody from MIT biological engineering is doing this. There's this huge opportunity. Just like, let me take your class. I want to do this. And, the first, originally where the registrar said, this class is full, about a day later, the registrar emails me. He's like, we found a place for you in this class. So clearly, they saw the opportunity too, especially given that they also occasionally back some of their students.
It's an additional case study for them.
We literally are a case study now. We'll talk about this journey, but this journey acquiring Pel Freez, it's actually being developed into a case study that's going to be taught to the Harvard MBA students in the fall semester. So pretty excited about that. I can talk more about that. But anyways, that's kind of how I stumbled into this career path. And, got to know my professors / investors through this course. After I graduated, finished my PhD, we negotiated some terms, but then we kind of formed a partnership, went off to the races. So, the deal was, they would pay me a modest salary and provide, all the sourcing and diligence and legal expenses while I traveled around the country looking for a niche biomedical business we could acquire. So I went everywhere. I remember from California to Florida to Delaware to Utah and Arkansas. And, we were very picky about our investment criteria. And, we wanted something that was, there's large untapped market, maybe underinvested in, high barriers to entry. So an enduringly profitable business. So, after about a year of traveling around and doing, interviewing different owners, I eventually settled on, we kind of set our sights on Pel Freez, and a lot of spooky coincidences happened. Like I would send letters to these business owners and I went, hi, I'm, come from a life sciences background, PhD from MIT. Like, how do you feel about selling your business? I have investors. And, I would send these letters to all sorts of business owners, and business owners get these things all the time. But, the previous owner of Pel Freez, the only reason he even read my letter was because his manager, Gina, who was reading his mail for him, happened to have the same maiden name as my weird Polish last name, Bonk. Right. So the only reason he even opened my letter was because of this weird Bonk connection. Wow. But we have the same undergraduate degree. We just really hit it off. And it ended up being about a year-long negotiation and diligence process as we learned about the business. That was quite a roller coaster, probably for both of us. But yeah, on March 31st, in January, I moved down here from Boston. Yeah.
Something we have in common. So,
yeah. Moved down after 10 years in Boston. I drove down here. Me and my dog got an apartment in Fayetteville while we sort of did the remaining work on closing the deal. On March 31st, we closed on Pel Freez. And just in time for two species of pandemics, the COVID, and then there's also a rabbit pandemic spreading throughout the Southwest. So we really got thrown into the fire pretty quickly, but it's been it's been an absolutely amazing adventure so far. I'm thrilled to be in Northwest Arkansas. I think this is one of the most underrated parts of the country. And it's so cool there's just when your finance professors write you a big check, that's cool. It's so cool to be here and be leading this awesome under the radar company. And there's just so much potential here that we're all really excited about.
Yeah. Wow. So, I mean, you spent your time and effort and you travailed as you traveled around the country trying to identify different places. What was it specifically about Northwest Arkansas that really kind of sold you on the overarching idea of what you were trying to do, that you could possibly do it here? Was it just the way that this business was run, or was it kind of the overall aesthetic of this area?
I mean, let's be real. I came here to acquire this business, but, obviously kind of here pretty long term. So, the geography of the area is very important. And, if I hated it here, that would have factored into, our decision to do this. But, and to be fair, you don't really hear about Arkansas a lot in Boston. Like we vaguely know Walmart is here, but, even in Boston, like we don't have Walmarts. I legit, until I moved here, I thought, we have Amazon, and Amazon is everywhere. And I just assumed, because I never heard about Walmart in Boston, I just assumed Walmart was going out of business, just being pushed out by Amazon. And then I get down here, no, we are not going out of business.
Right.
And then met friends here who, tell me about their bonuses and stuff. So it just, we just don't hear a lot about Arkansas. But that's partly why this is such, I think, underrated part of the country. I mean, there's a stereotype. And when I first moved down here, my friends would be like, hey, how many squirrels have you eaten? And, and at first I was like, no, they don't eat squirrels here. But then I learned about the Bentonville Squirrel Barbecue Fest.
Yeah.
And then,
they do eat squirrels here.
But actually, apparently it's quite good. And now I'm disappointed that's canceled. And then now we're eventually hoping to do a competing rabbit barbecue festival. Probably not this year, but that's one of the things we have planned. But it's just, I think this area is growing so fast that there's palpable excitement in the air. And I think, it's definitely not Boston, but people are friendly. It's absolutely beautiful here, and it's really cool to be part of this Northwest Arkansas growth trajectory.
Yeah, I think it is. I think maybe one of the other things that you'll probably find, and I think you've already found it just based on our short conversation that we've had since I've been with you this morning, is that people are pretty open here. And they will connect with you. And it's not about, you trying to do something or everybody having an angle on something. People just genuinely want to help other people. It's just like the same way we connected. We got introduced by Karen Wagaman from the Rogers Lowell Chamber of Commerce. Yeah. And Karen is the ultimate connector.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when she said, hey, you need to meet this person, I took it seriously because I'm like, okay, I know Karen. I've actually just interviewed somebody else she introduced me to yesterday. So that's just kind of the way that it is. Actually 2 days ago. But anyway, the bottom line is people here like legitimately look for ways to help each other.
Yeah. And
I think you're going to find that as you get here. And I've been here I've got a couple of years on you, but I came from the same place and I was the same way. And I've said it over and over. When I told people I was going to Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas, they were like, why in the hell would you go there? And I'm like, I said, listen, now I tell people don't knock it until you've tried it. Come see it. Come see what the people are all about. It is an amazing place. And so that's really exciting. And I think you probably won't have a hard time, attracting some other really bright people to come here to help you grow this business. But I would love for you just to tell the audience a little bit about Pel Freez. And, again, it's a company that's over 100 years old, which you don't always find. And you said a couple of things that really stood out to me, which was that, when you think about small business owners, typically most small businesses typically end up just closing up, right? There is no transition. There is no ownership transition of any kind. There isn't a plan in place. And it's hard to get people to buy something that's unknown. But you did your due diligence. You found a company that's working. But what was it about the Pel Freez brand that really attracted you to, you said, hey, we could do something with the rabbits? Because it's almost like you have two businesses here. So I'd love for you just to kind of expand upon that and educate people on what Pel Freez is all about.
Yeah, we're a super unusual and interesting business with a fascinating history. So I'm always happy to tell this story. But yeah, the company started in 1911 as a backyard rabbit farm in California. According to company lore, Herman Pelfrey, the founder of the company, gave a pregnant rabbit. He didn't realize it was pregnant to his son. Apparently, the rabbit's name was Betsy Ann. So he gave a pregnant rabbit to his son. According to company lore, soon the Pelfrey home was overrun with rabbits as they breed like rabbits. And again, according to the official company bio, Herman turned the dilemma of all these rabbits in his backyard into an opportunity and began selling rabbit meat to his neighbors. So fast forward a couple decades. Within a couple decades, the H.F. Pelfrey and Sons, that's Pelfrey with a PH, before they changed the name, it was the largest rabbit meat company in the United States. Rabbit meat kind of peaked in popularity in World War II because it wasn't rationed like beef and chicken were. And so, around that time, 1940s, this rabbit meat is peaking. They actually moved their operations to Arkansas from California to take advantage of cheaper land here. And I think there was a family connection. So they moved to Arkansas. They changed their name from Pel Free with a PH to, I guess frozen foods were sort of the keto of their day. I guess it was the hot new trend back in the 40s. So they changed their name to Pel Freez with an FR, to capture this growing wave of frozen foods at the time. So they moved to Arkansas, changed their name to Pel Freez. And about this time, they're the largest rabbit meat company in the United States. And about this time, there's a couple breakthroughs in the 40s and 50s that really set the stage for the growth of the biomedical industry today. So, at the time in the 50s, biomedical research is taking off, but there were no sort of catalog life science companies where you could just go buy your reagents, or certainly not the way they are today. So, researchers who would need like a rabbit spleen to do some tissue extraction, for their experiment, that they didn't know where to get them. So they went straight to the source and contacted the rabbit meat company. And I was showing Randy some of our, original biological, marketing materials. We have these little pamphlets. You could get, rabbit spleens for 15 cents, a rabbit testicle for $0.25, and a gallon of rabbit urine for $15. It's interesting.
Who knew a testicle was so cheap?
Well, the rabbit testicles are not very big. But, so this kind of one-off biological business, originally was a meat company where the bioproducts were the byproducts, quickly became, a biological business where the meat was the byproduct. And so this biological business grew, and there was a couple of sort of big successes early on. One of our first successful biological products was there's, again, not to get too graphic, but there's a reagent used in blood coagulation time assays that is still a major product for Pel Freez, but it's derived from rabbit brains, and it's used for measuring coagulation time for testing the efficacy of things like blood thinners. Yeah.
Real quickly, when you say reagent, just to give people like a real layman's term understanding of what a reagent is. So could you do that?
Yeah, sure. Like a reagent is just like a chemical you use in an experiment. Okay, and so anyway, in a biological lab, you'll just see shelves of these things. There's just going to be bottles of all sorts of stuff. And, everything from salts, to chemicals to media. So reagents are just sort of the supplies you need to do your experiment. Right. So it's not necessarily, maybe you're developing a drug or a medical device, those aren't the you need reagents to do the experiments to develop these things. Mm-hmm. So, back to the story, not to get too much into the science, but, we had a couple of successful products that really grew. The most recent previous owner, David, he came from a chemical engineering background, a Stanford MBA, and in the 70s, bought control of the business from his family. And, given his background, he really brilliantly leveraged this rabbit biological business and really built it into a sophisticated biomedical supplier. So today we still have two divisions. We have our food division and our biological division, which is, significantly, accounts for, overwhelming majority of our profits. But, fast forward a couple decades and we are a supplier to pretty much every major vaccine, pharmaceutical, diagnostic company. If you can think of a large pharmaceutical company, they're probably one of our customers or have been. So, we have a database of about 9,000 customers, and, about most of our revenue comes from about 20 to 30 big pharma and diagnostic companies. And, we serve hundreds of smaller life science companies and academic institutions. I think last time I looked, we were sold to over 40 countries, 65 employees today. So we've really found a niche as we supply critical reagents to a number of vaccine programs and other biological applications. And just to give an example, literally the world's top selling vaccine of all time. I'm not going to say what it is, but it requires this stuff called rabbit complement. They need it to test the efficacy of each lot they make, and it's derived from rabbits. So literally the world's largest, top selling vaccine requires this random reagent, this small company in Northwest Arkansas. And it's funny coming from Boston. I think it's really interesting to see the whole kind of supply chain, in Cambridge, where every, major pharma and biotech, is doing research in these shiny glass towers and they're brand new. Most people don't realize, and that's kind of what I liked about this business, this space is, people don't realize that, these vaccines and stuff, they rely on a supply chain that, traces back to an Amish, rabbit farm in Missouri. And it's just so interesting to see, we're kind of at the very bottom of this supply chain for the biotech industry. But it's just so interesting to see how we're kind of a fundamental supplier of critical reagents for these, wildly successful companies. And I kind of think of ourselves as a kind of a picks and shovels business of the biotech industry, to use the Levi Strauss analogy, these biotech and pharma companies developing drugs, they're kind of the gold miners. But, Levi Strauss came in and, he sold the blue jeans and picks and shovels to them, and ended up making way more money than all the gold miners. But that's kind of our niche is we sell the necessary reagents to these larger pharmaceutical and biotech companies.
I love that. I love that analogy. That is really good with the whole Levi Strauss story. So obviously I got to ask you this because there is a race for a vaccine right now, and I would have to imagine that in some way, shape, or form, rabbits have to be involved in this process. So I'm speaking of Operation Warp Speed, and I think, obviously we need that. We all need that. I mean, the world needs this vaccine at some point in time as quickly as we can get it. And they're breaking all kinds of records in time and space in order to try to bring something to market that will start to allay the concerns and fears that so many people have over the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah. It's, vaccines work in different ways. Our sort of niche, our niche is actually more in the bacterial vaccines, which is the stuff that really requires our reagents is certain types of bacteria. And that's a big market. But, we're not really directly involved, although we are actually making a sale. We have some things that we actually are in the process of developing some COVID related products. But, none of our major customers are doing COVID vaccines right now, unfortunately. But there is an opportunity in that space that our R&D team is working on. Although we did sort of, when COVID happened, we kind of found ourselves in a unique position because, we have these two divisions which rely on one raw material stream. And, we are overwhelmingly the largest processor of rabbits in the United States. And, historically, we sold them to restaurant distributors. And when COVID happened, our restaurant sales dropped off a cliff. But, a lot of people were using our rabbit serum and products in developing COVID diagnostics. So, on one hand, we had this for the bio business, we couldn't get enough rabbits. We were, we're still really backlogged in our rabbit serum, which is it's used as a control in certain COVID diagnostic tests. And so, one side of the business, we couldn't get enough rabbits. And the other side, we had way too many. So it's kind of been this interesting balancing supply and demand here. It's definitely been one of the key management challenges since taking over. But there is we are working on developing some. Our space is more reagents and sort of standards and controls. So and we are working on developing control standard that we think can be used for certain types of COVID diagnostic tests. But
yeah, I like that. I think I want to switch gears a little bit just because nobody listening to this podcast can eat a reagent, but they can't eat a rabbit. And
that's the fun side
I saw
the
thing that really blew me away was when I saw some posts, and I want to say it was either Yayo's or another company, a local restaurant here that had done a barbacoa with the rabbit, and it looked amazing. I mean, just absolutely amazing. And I know that you're teaming up or will eventually be teaming up with a number of local restaurants here to get rabbit on the menu. But I'd love to, let's talk about the rabbit from a meat perspective.
Absolutely.
For people that have never had rabbit, what does rabbit taste like?
It's sort of, rabbits are fed alfalfa. It kind of tastes like chicken, but because rabbits are fed alfalfa and chickens are not, rabbit has a slightly unique, it has a unique flavor. It tastes a little sweeter in my opinion. Some people say gamey, but I don't know if that's the right. It's a different variation on chicken. You can tell it's not chicken, but it's kind of got a chicken consistency, and it's an extremely lean protein, so it goes really well with things like braises and confits and stews and those sort of things. And so a lot of chefs love cooking with rabbit because it has a very unique flavor profile, and you can do some really nice things with it. I mean, the problem with rabbit meat is Europe, it's way more popular, but unless you went to culinary school or like grew up hunting, you've probably never had rabbit, or you're one of the come from one of the few ethnic groups where in the U.S. where rabbit is a big part of their cuisine. It's just a lot of people don't know what to do with it, and that was this is part of our we have sort of two very different divisions. We have the biological division and the food division, and I think both of them are untapped opportunities in their own right, because I think rabbit will always be sort of a specialty item. It's kind of like hamburger over in Europe, but I don't think we'll ever get there. But there's just this barrier. People don't know what to do with it. And to be honest, they don't know how to get it either. It's not sold in a lot of stores. It's not sold in any major retailer in any volume. So, as part of our marketing efforts with the food division, we wanted to get people. So we launched this all started when there's a brewery next door to Pel Freez, and they have this food truck, 3 cents an acre. So this all started when I just, there's a beer company next to the food company. We should do something. Mm-hmm. So I called the food truck and, like we should just do a special thing, like to celebrate new ownership. They were a New Orleans themed food truck, 3 cents an acre. And, we should do something. Rabbit's really big in Cajun culture. So, we got talking, and it turns out Meredith, who owns the food truck, she also does sort of food marketing and just marketing for local restaurants, and apparently knows like every chef in Northwest Arkansas. So we got talking. She started helping us with our social media and just, posting. Originally it was just going to be like, hey, let's just post some rabbit recipes. Let's take some nice, delicious looking photos and kind of maybe we can make this go viral. Maybe we can get with the right, buy-in from chefs. Maybe we can just generate more interest, lower the barrier to eating rabbit. Which can be a very intimidating protein. It's just people don't know what to do with it. So, after brainstorming and Meredith is great at social media, we should do a pop-up. And that's Meredith's thing. She does pop-ups among many other talents. So, our first food event was kind of experimental. They 3 cents an acre. They made a rabbit gumbo, and we did it in the Ozark, in collaboration with Ozark, which is right next door to us. Wildly successful, sold out. It was absolutely delicious. We got tons of compliments, and so we should be doing these events more often. And Meredith knows all these chefs. So we the next one we partnered with Yayo's, which is a Mexican restaurant down the street, really good. They made a rabbit barbacoa taco. And so we have a bunch of these events lined up. We're hoping to do one of these every couple months just to lower the barrier to rabbit. And also we're in the process of, a lot of our marketing materials, for such an old company are a little bit outdated. And we have these kind of old retro recipe books we've been giving out. But, there's an opportunity to update these. So what we kind of envisioned was, let's partner with local chefs. Rabbit is, very popular relative to the rest of the country, very popular in this region. So let's partner with local chefs, and let's get a rabbit recipe from each of them. We'll include it in our promotional recipe book, and it can be an opportunity to cross promote our products. So we can promote these local restaurants that are featuring our product, and promote Pel Freez, promote rabbits. So we're putting in the final stages of putting this together. Hopefully have it launched in about a month. But yeah, as part of these generating these recipes, interacting with local chefs, we have some exciting events planned. There's after the rabbit gumbo and rabbit tacos, we have a rabbit pizza planned. I think our next one, hoping to get one of the barbecue places to do like a rabbit sausage. We're probably going to cook it out of our little storefront that we just launched. So a lot of really good recipes. And Meredith has been running all this, but I kind of lost track of all the projects she's doing. But we have a lot of the local chefs lined up to partner with us.
Yeah, and I love that, and I'm hoping maybe you can connect with Jordan Wright from Wright's Barbecue or somebody like that.
If you're listening to this, we would love to do a special.
And Jordan has been on the podcast, as has Matt Cooper from The Preacher's Son, as has Jason Paul from Heirloom, which is not open right now, but he is an amazing chef. So there are some really good folks. I'm also looking at you have a list. They have a store. So if you guys ever come down here on North Arkansas, the address is 205 North Arkansas. Is that correct?
The storefront is actually 219
North Arkansas. But yeah, if you just go right past the Pel Freez sign, you can look to the right there. There's a little building, and they have Pel Freez proteins there. They can sell whole rabbit.
Yeah.
What is that pre-Q rabbit? Is that?
It's just sort of pre-butchered.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Yeah. Hind legs, eye of loin, and they do have liver available upon request. But if you want to get some of the Pel Freez proteins before the market blows up and you find them in Whole Foods and O&F and all these other, fabulous stores, you can get them right here locally in Rogers. So
this all started, and our storefront is pretty modest. This all started, traditional, historical, we sold kind of rabbit by the pallet to big distributors. Within a couple of weeks of taking over the business, somebody actually came in the office, and he just wanted his wife wanted to make a rabbit pot pie. So he was just looking for a couple rabbits. And we didn't take credit cards. We weren't set up for this. So, we had to walk him down to the plant, get his information, invoice him. He must have really wanted that pie because he was waiting for 20 minutes. But, and people just started coming up to me after I bought the business. Like, hey, my grandmother used to raise rabbits for Pel Freez. I love rabbit and I just don't know where to get it. And, getting into retailers is a process, but we need, we're selling this stuff by the pallet. We need a way to make this accessible to the community so we did open this little storefront just to do, consumer orders, which has been fun and it's been very successful. We've gotten more business than we expected from it. And it's just, we have such a strong Pel Freez, being in downtown Rogers for, 70 plus years. We have this strong connection with the community, and it's it's important to me that we embrace that and partner as much as we can with the local restaurant community here. So the way we've been doing this is providing sort of samples, experimental samples for chefs to try out a recipe on. We provide them for free, and then there's a discounted if they want to keep offering rabbit, then we'll provide it to them at a discount to our wholesale prices. So, but it's we're such a big part of it. Albeit under the radar, but we're such we've been in downtown Rogers for so long that it's very important to us to nurture these community ties. And really, we learned this is kind of an opportunity to really revitalize a really hometown Arkansas brand. So that this has been a lot of fun. I'm very pleased with how that's going.
Good. Well, like I said, I said it earlier, and I do think that will be the case, that as people catch on about Pel Freez and about what you're doing and the new ownership and just how you're expanding things, I think what you're going to find is that you're going to get a lot of people that are going to raise their hand and say, I'm interested in either just buying rabbits or making some connections, because I know some people that have an interest in that. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really huge. I'm actually going to make a couple of connections for you after this podcast, because I think it'll be beneficial. But I
appreciate it.
But yeah, I'm just thankful that that we got a chance to connect. And this story is, I think it's amazing on a number of levels. First of all, it's just a great entrepreneurial story. I think it's important for people to understand. You said a couple of key things on this podcast, which I don't want anyone to miss out on, is that especially when you were taking the class, that even when you were told no, that the registrar said, hey, it's closed up, you still reached out and somebody made a way. And I think a lot of times we give up at the first no. And you can't do that. I think you need to keep pushing forward. So that's a great example of that. And I certainly recognize that aspect of it. But then I also like the fact that you're finding a way within the business to make use of everything, right? Like literally the whole rabbit. And I think that a lot of times we miss out on opportunities that are like right there in front of us. And I mean, granted, that's kind of the business plan for this business, but you can apply that in a lot of other spaces that we operate in where people don't really take full advantage of all of the opportunities that might be available to them.
Yeah, when you're in the when you're dealing with animals, it's in the life science space. It's very important to make sure as little as possible goes to waste.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, well, Brian, I really appreciate this. Just in your short time here, what do you like to do in your spare time when you're not physically in this building? Because I imagine you're probably here a lot. You're probably burning the midnight oil quite a bit. But when you're not physically in this building and you're not dreaming about rabbits, what are you doing for fun here in Northwest Arkansas?
Sure. Well, the good news about not having a lot of time to do things is that there's still a pretty long list of things I want to do. I didn't know it's going to take me a couple of years, I think, to check everything off. But it's just exploring the area there's just so many fun bars and breweries and restaurants. Trying to do more hiking. I bought a Jeep. I'm always looking for, it doesn't really make sense to have a Jeep in Boston, but
right,
I'm always looking for excuses to take that off road and take the doors off. Yeah, I play a little music too. I've been playing. That's kind of how I unwind at the end of the day. I play keyboards and sing a little bit. So. Yeah, and I just bought a house here, so that's also keeping me busy just down the street in downtown Rogers. So
nice.
Between the Jeep, the house, the business, everything's keeping me busy.
So you're making some roots here.
Yeah, well,
there you go. I love that.
We're in this for the long haul.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. And I would imagine that maybe in the near future too, that might also mean some new employees that you may have to hire depending on how the business goes. And so there'll be plenty of opportunity for growth in that area.
Absolutely. We've definitely been investing in our, R&D team. I didn't even get a chance to get into it, but we have, so many of these large pharmaceutical and biotech companies as customers, and there's so many product development opportunities. Once you sort of build a relationship as a supplier to these companies, they start asking like, hey, can you do this? And then these new product development opportunities come up. And that's how a lot of our most successful product lines have grown. So, we've been, investing in both equipment, supply chain things, but also making some key hires in our R&D, actually in both divisions. But yeah, we have big plans for the business.
Man, I love that. That's great. Well, I appreciate you sharing your story. Would you mind giving us the name of the book that your professors wrote?
Oh, sure. It's called the Harvard Business Review Guide to Buying a Small Business.
Okay. All right. That's simple enough.
It's straight and to the point.
Yeah, I love that. Purchasing a small business. All right. Perfect. Well, Brian Bonk, I really appreciate you coming on the I'm Northwest Arkansas podcast.
I'm delighted to be a part of it.
Absolutely. We hope that people get something out of that. Now, and I'm going to put you on the spot. I didn't say this before, but is there anything special you'd like to offer our I Am Northwest Arkansas listeners if they want to come up here and get some rabbit?
Mention the podcast or Randy's name, or just a fun fact you learned from the podcast. We'll hook you up with a discount.
There you go. Well,
whether it's on our rabbit or at, we're doing these events, but we'll hook you up with something.
Absolutely. Please mention the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast and that you heard Brian here first, and maybe even a little tidbit about Pel Freez, and we can go from there. But I have no illusion that these guys are going to really grow this into something big. Not that it isn't already big in the space that they're in, but I think that they're going to create some new opportunities here in Northwest Arkansas that everybody's going to be excited about. So, Brian, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks so much, Randy.
Appreciate it. Well, there you have it, folks. Another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. I really appreciate you listening. I was just really blown away by Brian's story. I don't know about you guys, but I want to listen to this again because there were some things that he shared that really encouraged me as a small business owner. So I hope you got something out of that. As always, we like to focus on the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life here in the Ozarks. And it kind of cut a swath between all these different areas. And so really excited to see what Brian and his team are able to do in the future. And definitely, as he said, come on up here. If you come up to Rogers, downtown Rogers, right around the corner from Onyx Coffee, go grab some coffee over at Onyx. come over here and get some rabbit and then take it on home and make your wife or make your husband a stew or some gumbo or something like that.
And don't forget to pick up some beer at Ozark.
Yeah, don't forget to, big shout out for Ozarks. You can get some beer over there as well. So definitely want to encourage you to do that. But thank you again for listening to the podcast today. Our podcast is brought to you by the Exclusive Real Estate Group down in Fayetteville. Chris Dinwiddie and his team of agents do an amazing job when it comes to real estate. So if you need real estate help, if you just have a question, check out Chris Dinwiddie and his team at the Exclusive Real Estate Group. They really know what they're doing when it comes to real estate, period. And if you want to learn a little bit more about Chris, specifically, I did an episode with him several months ago that you can check out as well here on the podcast. It tells you a little bit more about his approach to real estate here in Northwest Arkansas. If you're new to the area and you haven't purchased yet, because I always tell people when they move to a new area, they should rent first before they buy, because they need to know where they want to live. And then once they buy, you should always find a good realtor so that they can help you navigate the process. And Chris Dinwiddie and his team at the Exclusive Real Estate Group can definitely help you do that. So that's all we have for you this week. Again, check out the podcast wherever great podcasts can be found. Give us a rating, give us a review, let us know what you think about the podcast, and keep listening and share it with a friend. Remember, sharing is caring. That's it. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and I will see you next week.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. Check us out each and every week, available anywhere that great podcasts can be found. For show notes or more information on becoming a guest, visit IamNorthwestArkansas.com. We'll see you next week on I Am Northwest Arkansas.